Well, hello everybody. I'd like to say hello, and I need to switch my headphones over to my recorder. That's gonna take a second. There it is. Make sure my volume's right. All right. I'd like to say hello. Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. How you doing? Let you know, you don't have to drink, you don't have to smoke, you don't have to gamble, you don't have to do no drugs, you don't have to overeat, you don't have to indulge in sexual behavior that just bad sexual behavior. You have to be cautious about that. But yeah, so tonight, my topic is going to be applying spiritual or 12-step spiritual principles over curses and spells. Curses and spells. And I like to say, well, first, I was asked by somebody very close to me about this particular topic. I said, but can you talk about this? And so I will. So I'm gonna talk about curses and spells and, that people will put on someone, and the 12-step process of dealing with that. So first, I want to go over a couple of things, and to establish a standard here. So first thing is, like, what is a curse? Now, under curse, I have curse, spells, I have root, blowing of knots, etc. And what they basically are prayers or invocations for harm or injury to come to a person, place, or thing. And it's a result of resentments, anger, fear, or hatred at a person, place, or thing. And this is an expression of obsessive and compulsive behavior from the person that's executing the spell. In other words, they got so mad at you, they got so obsessed, so compulsed over a person, a place, or a thing that they cursed them, that they actually put themselves into a trance, and I'll explain that process later. They put themselves into a trance using resentment, anger, fear, and hatred of that person to cause a spiritual attack upon a person, place, or thing. That's what happens. That's all basically what a curse is. And if you don't believe in curses or spells, you hear them every day. If you go out into the public, if you listen to music on the radio, or if you watch TV, you're hearing curses. You're hearing spells put on people. And I made up a little list. I had to do a little homework on this, but I made up a little list of certain curses that people use. For example, here's a few. A few examples are your racial slurs, your popular racial slurs, like nigger or nigga, or even my nigga. That's a curse. That's a curse that a person will put under another person. Why? Because that's what it was meant to be. Some people came up with the term nigga or nigger, and then they applied it to another group of people. Why? To break their spirit down, to break their vibration down. Then we have, spick, Jew. Sure it is. Jew is sure enough a racial slur because these people, this term was applied to them by another group of people. And it wasn't applied to them to say that they were some good people. No. The Jews originally referred to themselves as what? Jewish or Hebrew or Israelites. That's what they called themselves. They didn't call themselves Jew. That was put on them by Romans and other groups of people as a racial slur. Spick, wetback, hunky. Yeah, a hunky was deemed as a person that when they was coming to pick up, this is how this was explained to me. When they came to pick up a black woman at their house, they parked in front and blew the horn, and then the people in the neighborhood called them hunky because they was honking the horn. Sand nigger, camel jockey. How about this one? My bitch. I hear girls or women, and also men, refer to other females as my bitch. Well, we all know a bitch is a pregnant dog, but some type of way it becomes some type of a term of endearment. These are not terms of endearment. They're slurs and they're curses upon people. I mean, some people, when I hear the defense of why people use these words, my question is how can you take some poison? Let's say you take some poison. You take a bottle of poison, and you put it in a nice, pretty bottle with a nice, pretty cap, and you tie a ribbon around it, and you kind of make it smell good. Is that going to take away the effect of that poison? No, the poison is going to be poison, no matter how you package it. Like some manure, you take some feces, right? Let's say you take some feces, and you put it in a nice pile, and you make it smell good, and you put some spices in it, call yourself gonna make it taste good, make it more palatable. Will you eat it, knowing that it's manure, that it's doo-doo, that it's feces? Nah, no matter how you package it, you can't change the nature of it. You can't change the nature of something that's wrong, that its nature is wrong. And these are what curses and spells are. But somehow, in this day and age, people have somehow made them terms of endearment, made it to be all right. But in actuality, the individual is being cursed. Another thing I want to read this right quick because this is referring to resentment, anger, and fear, and also hatred. When curses are applied in their original form, they usually apply through as a result of one of these four feelings and emotions. And the feelings and emotions I'm referring to is resentment, anger, fear, and hatred. Now, resentment, and so I'm just going to read it. Resentment is the way most of us react to our past. It is the reliving of past experiences again and again in our mind. Anger is the way most of us deal with the present. It is our reaction to and denial of reality. It is our reaction to what it says. It says it is our reaction to denial. It is our reaction to and denial of reality. It says and our reaction to and denial of reality. I just want to make that a little bit smoother. And it says, fear is what we feel when we think about the future. And of course, what is hatred? Hatred is the extreme physical, is the reaction to extreme anger. So it's anger at a whole nother level. But it's the physical response of resentment, anger, and fear all rolled into one in a physical sense. So let's move on with here. So getting back to the curse, when the person curses somebody, when they cursing you, like I said before, it's the invocation of harm or injury to another person. But it's so extreme that a person takes their resentment, their anger, and their fear of the person that's applying the curse, and they actually aim it at a person. They get their vibration or their spirit up so high that they're going to aim it at another person to get this result that I talked about. And it's injury, physical injury, and harm. And the harm is mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional harm. This is what they're doing. And believe me, it happens. People will actually get their emotions so riled up that they might shoot a person, stab a person, beat a person up. They might tear their property up in a fit of raging, in a fit of rage and what? Anger. Yeah. So it's a very high emotional state that's driven, which is driven by those emotions to cause what? Harm and injury to another person. And that's in the physical form. And in the emotional form, inside the emotions, they can, call names, cut you down, Yeah, like the names that I just used. Yeah, and this is on the extreme level. Yeah, they can just cut you down, face to face. Or it could be mild. It could be mild. It could be introduced on a mild level. I hear people when I'm out and about in the street, what's up, my nigga? What's up, my bitch? This is my bitch right here. And they might be referring to, it could be a woman referring to another woman or a man referring to a man. I've seen men do it to other men. But however, what it's doing is subtly breaking a person down spiritually, emotionally, mentally, which will result eventually in a spiritual expression or a spiritual reaction. So moving on with this, it's like, why would a person do something? Well, do something like this. And like I said before, mainly because maybe, and I like this one. A person has got angry at you. They've got angry. They got to the point where they got angry. And in this piece of literature that I'm reading, it says, anger is the way most of us deal with the present. Something that's happening in the present. It is our reaction to and denial of what? Reality. So it's something about this reality that you're denying. It's you ain't doing this to me. I'm not accepting this reality right now. And so my response is with a curse. Like saying, like, F you, like, fuck you, or fuck this, or fuck that. That's the beginning process of the curse. Or let me say, of being in denial. In other words, when they use when they're saying something like, fuck you, what they're saying is that I'm not accepting this. And that's a vile way of expressing that. And then, of course, there's also using the racial slur if it has to do with people. They'll start throwing slurs out. Then also to a person, place, or thing. They'll curse the place. They'll curse the thing. Yeah. Moving on to the spiritual, on the spiritual side, because this is the side that I like to spend a little time in covering. When a person is cursed spiritually, what's going on, or the process is to break down that person's spirit, or, let me say this, to remove the spiritual significance of a place or a thing. To remove the significance of a place or a thing. So let's say the cross, for example. People may curse the cross, turn it upside down, burn it up. That's to diminish its spiritual significance. The burning of a church or a mosque or a synagogue or any place of worship. This is what's going on. A person wants to diminish its spiritual vibration or the vibration that it gives off, especially if it's a place or thing. They want to diminish the vibration, that spiritual vibration, cut it. And then if it's a person, they want to interfere with their spirit, So they begin to inject spiritual poisonings at that. Now on the physical realm, inside the third dimension, which is the physical realm, it could be a lot of cussing, fighting. We even see wars going on, anywhere from verbal assaults to physical assaults. You can write. We can write certain things about people to get at them in their mind mentally, but on the physical level, in the third dimension, I might say, which is the earthly dimension, it could be mental, physical, and emotional. Because we mainly see ourselves, these are things that could be seen with the eye and can be responded to. Sure. I was so sure. We can see the reactions of people. If it's a place or a thing, then what do we see? People might go in, they might burn the place, blow it up, or deface it with paint, or write articles about it in the newspapers or different types of journals, or however they might go about it, or they can make recordings about it, or however they might communicate to another person or a mass of people their intention on what they're trying to do with this person, place, or thing, as to put the curse on it. So moving on with this, and I got my little notes here. I really needed to come prepared for this. So inside the spiritual attack, so I'm going to move on inside the spiritual attack, because this is what the person was mainly referring to when they was talking about this spiritual attack. So inside the spiritual attack, the person that's initiating the attack, what they want to do is tear down the person's spirit or lower their vibration. They lower their vibration. And when I say vibration, I'm talking about their chakras. They want to affect their chakras. And the 7 main chakras, and right now I'm not going to go into it, but they all has to do with just understand this, their spirit. And then when this is affected, when their spirit is affected, it will reflect in the other 3 areas. It will reflect mentally. It will reflect emotionally. It will reflect spiritually, because this is the intent of the spiritual assault. So, however, what's happening is the person that's delivering the assault, they will either hire somebody or they themselves are talented enough to enter into another dimension, which is called the fourth dimension, or it's called the astral plane. And the astral plane is the dream state. That's like when you have your dreams, you dreaming about whatever it is you're dreaming about, cotton candy, racing cars, or having good times or bad times. This is the plane that you're on. It's called the astral plane. But also, the astral plane is it also can be used to travel. Yeah. So let's say you had a dream and you dream, you live in America and you dream that you was in Paris, or you dream you was in Africa, or you dream you was in China. That's you taking a journey on the astral plane. I like to say, have you ever had a dream about a place or a person or a thing, and then you eventually met up with it? You came and you intersected on the physical plane. So this experience happened on the astral plane, and it materialized on the physical plane. That's all I'm saying. So some people are so talented that they can heighten their feelings and emotions through chanting and praying. But they'll be praying on the out of heightened emotions of resentments, anger, and fear and hatred to project themselves into the fourth dimension. This is how this is done. Now let me say this, right? Remember when I was talking about like curses earlier? If it's known, if they want to let it be known to you what they're doing, they will actually curse you knowingly. Curse you out. To curse out. Yeah. So they will curse you out. They will say things to you. They will do things to you to bring your vibrations down, to bring your spirit down enough where they can intersect with you on or in the fourth dimension. And then inside the fourth dimension, they can bring some other stuff with them, cause you to have a nightmare, cause you to have a bad dream, or they can say stuff to you. And this is designed to bring down your vibration or your spirit, so that something or their intent could or can happen to you or happen to the individual. Now I'm saying this to some of us that may not believe this, keep open mind. But those of us that have experienced this, you can identify with what I'm talking about, because things like this does happen. So now that hopefully I've established, let me hit my notes here. Hopefully that I've established what a curse is, what a spell is. Now I'm going to talk about a spell for a second. So let's say what spells are. So let's say a person that's involved in, let's say, alcoholism or drug addiction, or they're involved in gambling or sexual addiction, or they involved in overeating, or they're involved in fantasy. They live in this life of fantasy, or they overworking themselves, right? So this is a curse. This is a person that's under a curse. Why? Because a person that's cursed in the areas that I just mentioned, they doing something that they really don't want to do. So they caught up in a curse. They trapped in a curse. And their curse is what they're doing. You know, some people in some areas call these symptoms of obsessive and compulsive behavior. What's another word for obsessive and compulsive behavior? It's called addiction. So, if you have an addiction, you're under a curse. Let me say it again. If you're under addiction, especially what I just mentioned, you're simply under a curse. You are being cursed. Now, question is, how did you get the curse? That's another story. We could talk about that later. But believe this, if you are overeating against your will, if you are having sex against your will, but you're having it anyway, if you're indulging in drugs against your will, if you're overeating against your will, if you're always fantasizing against your will, you are C-U-R-E-S-E-D, cursed. Sorry, but that's what a curse is. You know, that's what a curse is. So, that being said, how can, now let me say this, the curse is also designed what? What is the curse affecting? It's affecting your spirituality. It's affecting your spirit, and it's lowering your vibration. Lowering your vibration. And what needs to happen? In a lot of areas, in a lot of philosophies out here, something needs to happen. First thing that needs to be done is we need to get your vibration and your spirit back up. And how do we do that? We deal with the symptoms. So let's move on from the curse and move on to, and I'm not going to necessarily talk about roots or the blowing of knots, because a lot of people ain't never heard of blowing of knots in the Western society. But in Eastern society, believe me, it is a popular thing. The blowing of the knots, yeah. That's a very, very popular thing and was used to curse people with, like this, like the throwing the shoes. You know, so those of you who have spent time in the Middle East and Africa, you know about throwing the shoes. I think somebody threw a shoe at one of the presidents or somebody a while back, right? Yeah. That was a curse. You know, if you go to Africa or if you go to the Middle East and people don't like you, man, they throw their shoes at you or some, you know. So this is a way of cursing a person. So anyway, so we talked about curses and spells, and I'm kind of limited to those two, because out of those two, there are a lot of synonyms that go with that. So anyway, so moving on. So how can one, number one, they say a good defense is a good offense. We talk about prevention, preventative maintenance. Such thing as so if you conditioning yourself every day, you are eating right, you doing push-ups and sit-ups, and you lifting weights and all that. What you're doing is you are doing preventative care. You saying, okay, I'm a slow down me getting sick. You eating healthy and stuff like that. You working out. getting plenty of rest. That's right, getting plenty of rest. So what you're basically doing is you you're putting your armor on. So on the spiritual front or on the spiritual side, what does one do? And I know the first thing is going to come up, start praying. Well, no doubt about that. Well, let's pray. You know, you're going to get your prayer muscles, you know, and some of us is, you know, is ready to turn it over to, you know, to our God and stuff like that. But however, I'll say there are certain other things that the individual can do. And I will say it does start off with, you know, make sure you know you're getting plenty of rest. You're resting. You're eating properly. You focus on positive material. You know, if you're a book reader, you know, you might want to read some spiritual material. And understand this, our religious material is not spiritual. Let me say that one more time. Our religious material is not spiritual, right? So you might want to, but I'm not saying, you know, don't read religious material. Yeah, because anything that's building up the spirit is, can be, and will be effective. So moving on. So you want to read, you want to write, you know, you know, write your own prayers up, you know, write about your feelings and your emotions and your condition. You know, put that stuff down there on paper. You know, bring it up out of your subconscious, whatever it is that you are thinking, and take a look at it. You know what? And how somebody else look at it. These are the things, these are your preventative methods. So it's eating, it's sleeping, it's putting good material inside you through the reading process. You know, listen to good stuff. You know, don't be listening to a lot of bad stuff all the time. Listen to some good stuff. Watch some good stuff. You know, watch some good movies. Don't look at, you know, Dracula and Wolfman all the time. Dramas, stuff like that. These things are designed, even though they might feel good to you, they designed to lower your vibration. You know, pornography. I'm gonna say I'm one dude, you know, about that one right there. Ooh, yes, right, yes, sir. That's one I had to really deal with, right there. Fantasy. Watch your fantasy. Oh, Star Trek, Star Wars, these type of pictures, any type of science fiction. So I had to create a balance on that, because what I found out was, I had talked about earlier, one of my earlier addictions was fantasy, you know, and Star Trek was a part of my fantasy, you know, watching pictures like Star Trek. And even when Star Wars came out, I remember one time I sat over a friend's house one day, and she had all the Star Trek. She had all the Star Wars movies. I stayed at her house from like, I don't know, 9 to 6, watching every Star Trek movie and didn't even touch her. That's right. Star Wars. Watching all the Star Wars movies. So anyway, the addiction to fantasy. Another thing, being alone. Oh, yeah. Now, a lot of times we think being in solitude, you know, is a good thing. You know, I want to meditate, kumbaya, all that. But that has to have a balance too, because sometimes, you know, a person alone, they can be in some bad company. Bad company. So moving on. Talking about the spiritual health. So creating a balance and watching what you're doing and then weeding out the stuff that don't need to be there. Because the object is to keep your spirit up and keep your vibration, keep your chakras vibrated. For those who know what I'm talking about, but I know everybody knows you want to keep your spirit high level. Because when a person is putting a spell on you or they cursing you, the object is to lower your vibration. That's why all those slurs I was talking about earlier, that's how they come into play. The name calling, so forth and so forth. These things are designed to consciously or subconsciously bring your spirit down, bring your vibration down. And there's no way, in my mind, I know people think you can use any of these curses as terms of endearment. Because at the end of the day, I would say, if I bought you a plate full of cow manure and I spiced it up a little bit and made it smell good, would you eat it? Would you eat it? That's all I want to know. Yes or no? If I took some feces, some human feces, right? And we know what human feces, it ain't nothing but food that you done ate out that passed through your body and came out. If I put some salt and pepper on it and put some jalapeno peppers on it and put some cheese on it, would you eat it? Would you? So my question is, why would you think none of these slurs, racial slurs that I use that's meant to be destructive, how could you call them some type of endearment? How could you bless that? That's all you're doing is say, I'm blessing that. Really, though? So anyway, moving on. So first, the spiritual condition, your own spiritual conditioning is necessary. Prayer, meditation, listening to positive stuff, writing positive stuff down, eating good food. And notice the things that I'm talking about are coming from the physical. That's the eating of the good food. The music that you're listening to, the writing, the reading, that's mental and emotional stability, which affects the spirit. Then the next thing you want to do is also, sure enough, hang around positive people. If you go to church, go to church. You go to the mosque, go to the mosque. If you go to the synagogue, go to the synagogue. If you go to the temple, go to the temple. And also associate with people that's on the same level or vibration as you are. Another word is called compatible, that you're compatible with, right? So moving on, and I started to give some examples of people that's not, that's may not be too healthy to be around. But understand this though. If you hanging around bank robbers and drug dealers and if you hanging around people that's really negative and they complain, moan, and groan all the time, you might want to reconsider that. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You might want to reconsider that. Hold up, let me get my drink. I got a drink. Hold up. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So you want, yeah, that's tea right there, tea and honey. That's some good stuff. Some green. I got some green organic tea mixed with some honey. Right. So anyway, so let's move on. So the next thing you want to do after fortifying, building up your spirit, and exercise. Got all about that one. It don't matter what you do, do whatever exercise you can do, because we understand like some people are on crutches, some people have one foot, some people don't have no foot, they're amputees. Do whatever it is you can do. The main thing you want to work on is your breath, getting your breath getting your breath. Wait a minute. Let me see what did I put there? Yeah, you want to get a good breathing pattern with yourself, and this is what exercise done. The majority of the things that we deal with is off the breath. If our breath is good, our rhythm is good. Just like sleeping. Like when you sleep, if you notice that people that snore or people that breathe hard during their sleep, their rhythm is off. So we want to establish a breathing rhythm or a breathing rhythm that's conducive with your vibration. And you'll know. You'll know. You'll know. I mean, you can go to the doctor. Doctor tell you, oh man, your lung. When they say stuff like, your lungs sound good, your breathing is good, then you know that you have a pretty good breathing pattern. Also, what affects breathing is blood pressure and hypertension. These things affect your breathing too. So, and anything that affects your breathing affects your what? Your spirituality or your spiritual growth or your spiritual vibration. So, again, sleeping, eating, praying, meditation, keeping a positive attitude, mental, physical, and emotional, will help you physical. So if you're not keeping yourself up physically, I'm quite sure you having a struggle on the spiritual realm. So let's move on. Now that so let's say you have optimum mental, physical, and emotional balance. And I ain't saying 100%. I say optimum. To me, 65% is optimum. 60%. And how would you gauge that? Go to the doctors. Go see some doctors. Yeah, that's it. You go see a doctor. Doctor gonna tell you. They gonna tell you all about it. Get a physical. And then is others. And then if you are holistic, if you're holistic, you into things like yoga or Reiki or the Kundalini science. See these people, but also see a MD. And then at some point, go see also, if you go to church, talk with your pastor. If you're in the mosque, talk with your imam or your sheikh. If you're Jewish, go see the rabbi. Go talk with your rabbi. And so whatever your tradition is, go see that person. And then come up with some type of a assessment and what it is you need to do. Because it's not going to all be one-sided, And we, if you're agnostic or atheist, I'm quite sure that you have some type of a gauge to check your spirituality, because everybody ain't into the church, everybody ain't into the mosque, everybody ain't into the ain't into the synagogue or into yoga or have a guru, stuff like that, or people like that. So whatever your tradition is and however you deal with your spiritual conditioning, interact that. So let's move on. Let's move on, enough time there. So let's talk about how a 12-step program can help you or has helped me. That's what I've talked about. So I was having dreams one time and I'm talking about, they was like nasty dreams, Some of them I couldn't breathe in, I couldn't move, I couldn't get up, but I had a certain I was conscious, but I just couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't scream out, I couldn't do none of that, and I had shared it with somebody, and they told me, they said, you know what it sounds like to me, SUNI? I said, what? It sounds like somebody's on a, did you piss somebody off? And when I thought about it, I did. You know, bottom line, short story, no cut, no chaser. What I had done to somebody, uh, they was resentful for me. They felt I had done them wrong, and they told me. They told me. So I'm gonna put a root on you. I thought they was playing. I really did. I thought they was playing. And in another instance, a whole nother instance that this happened. Now, the person that told me they was putting a root on me, they was from the South. They was like from Louisiana. You know, the one person, this other person that told me that they was gonna do something to me, they was from Africa. Oh yeah, and they was hot. They thought I had did something real bad to them. And so what they did was they told me, they said, well, you know, I'm a ... And I told them, come on with it. And then, yeah, things start happening. So I came out of denial, because denial is usually the first offense. Nah, that stuff don't work, can't be me, and so forth. But when I came up under spiritual attack, at some point, man, I'm gonna tell you, at one time, man, they had me scared to go to bed at night. This is for real. I mean, at one point, man, I was like, when I was in the street, that's all I'm gonna say. When I was in the street and I was up under spiritual attack, you know what I used to do? I used to, you know, take something to go to sleep. That's the way that was. I would actually take something to go to sleep, because what I was going through at the time, I mean, it was powerful. So what happened was, make a long story short, when I came into the fellowship and I started practicing spiritual principles, and I started working on my own resentments, I started working on my own angers, I started working on my own fears, I started working on my own perceived hatreds. You know what happened? I started getting better. What I found out was I had some unresolved issues, that I had some resentment, some anger, some fear in my life that was working, and I was in so much denial, I didn't know. I didn't even know, man. So that alone left me vulnerable to spiritual attacks. So when I start what some people call clearing, when I start learning how to work a spiritual program by recovering, and we call it recovering, from my resentment and my angers and my fears that I was carrying around, that was hurting me so much, I mean, I was, you know what, some of the results that some of the feelings and emotions that I was getting was leaving me in depression. I was suffering from anxiety, that the resentment, the fear, and the anger was causing on me. So now we're talking about my own contribution to my own demise. You know, my own resentments and my own resentments of the past. You know, even my angers and disappointment of the present, from certain relationships, from certain things that I felt that I should have had that I didn't have, which is my fault. Certain fears that I had. I had certain fears, and what it is, fear is fear of the future. So what I had to learn how to do was, on my resentments, I had to learn how to gain some acceptance about whatever it is about the past I was resentful for. Now remember, early in this piece right here, I went into resentment, anger, and fear. And what did I say resentment was? and I'm just going to read it. I said resentment. Resentment is the way most of us react to our past. Check this out. It is the reliving of past experiences again and again in our mind. So things that I was past experience, those negative experiences or the things that I felt was negative in my life, I had to resolve. The only way that I can get some acceptance about those situations was resolve them. So I had to go back and gain some acceptance. And how to get, and some people call it clearing, for those of you that call it that. So what I had to do was go back and get some resolve in order to gain some acceptance. So I had to do what? Come out of denial, which was my favorite defense mechanism. So I had to come out of denial about my resentments and face them. Then once I came out of denial, I had to admit to myself that I had these resentments going on. So I went from denial to admittance to acceptance. Then I accepted whatever that situation was. And you know what happened? I recovered and I start to recover in that area. So it's coming from denial to admittance, to acceptance, to recovery. And some people call it clearing. So I cleared the resentment. Then I went on to my anger in the present. Because I thought I was a nice guy, right? I mean, that's what everybody was telling me. You're a nice guy. But you know what, man? I was a very angry person. And what I read say anger is? It says, anger is the way most of us deal with the present. It is our rejection. Let me start all over. Anger is the way most of us deal with the present. It is our reaction to and denial of reality. So, that being said, remember I told you what I said to y'all what my first addiction was in a few videos back? I said it was fantasy. My first addiction was fantasy. When I talked about Star Trek, I talked about Star Wars, and this was even before Star Wars. How about Lost in Space? I used to like that. I dug that. Andy Griffin, Dennis the Menace, The Lone Ranger, and the list goes on. So I learned how to take myself through my anger at the present and put myself in the fantasy world. And what I was angry about was things that I felt that I should have had, that I should have had, I was angry about. So I was angry at the present. So what I did was I denied. I went into denial and went into a fantasy world. And if you can identify, fine. If you can't, let it fly, baby. Let it fly. So moving on, I had to learn how to love who? Me. I had to come out of that denial again. I had to use the same set of principles to gain that reality that I did with the resentment. So I had to come out of denial. Once I came out of denial, I went into some admittance to admit about my anger. Then I went to acceptance, then I went to faith, and then I got cleared of my anger. Not all of it, because I wasn't conscious of all of it. Just like my resentments. I wasn't conscious of all my resentments, but I had to be conscious. But the resentments that was placed in front of my face, that's what I dealt with. And then the next one was the fear. Fear of the future. See, check this out. I had so many plans, right? Now, if you can identify, just identify with it. I had so many plans, and I had followed through on a whole lot of them. Preparation, and I'm talking about my preparational plans. I had went to this school. I had accomplished these tasks. I had went to the military. I had got certain things situated the way I need to be situated, so I could have a better life, so I could have a better future. So in other words, I did plan for my future. I did do a whole lot of things. But what happened with that future was, because I had a lot of fear going on, I didn't have no what? Faith. My faith, do we see the connection between the faith and the spells and the curses and the spirit? So my faith in the present was weakened. So I had a lower what? Vibration. My vibration was low. My spirit was low. Even though my intellect would say, hey, look at all this stuff you did over here. You did this, you did that, you accomplished this, you accomplished that. You hit a lot of goals. But why aren't you moving forward, son? Well, I wasn't moving forward because my faith was gone. And my faith was see, two things can't exist on the same plane. Fear and faith. One of them is going to be dominant. One of them is going to be dominant. You know, I'm not a scholar. You know, I ain't graduated from college and none of that. I think I got a 10th grade education. You know, but one thing I do understand, you know, right and wrong can't exist on the same plane. Either right's going to be up and wrong is going to be down, or wrong is going to be up and right's going to be down. Fear is going to be up and courage is going to be down, or or faith is going to be up and fear is going to be down, or lack of faith is going to be down. So at this point, so what I'm trying to say is I had to deal with my fears. Now, how do an individual deal with a fear? How do you deal with fear? The way an individual deal with fear is you got to face your own fears. Whatever your fears is, you need to face them. And one thing that I know people use to not deal with their fear is fantasy. Oh yeah, fantasy. And it shows up in the form of this: what if and if only. What if and if only. Man. So I had to learn how to put down what if and if only and deal with the fear. So moving on. So now, let's say I've dealt with my resentment of the past through acceptance, and I've dealt with my anger of the present with some love. Got to put that up there, right? So when you're dealing with anger, and if you want to clear your anger, you got to get some love. And my fear of the future was faith. So let me, run this down so it sound, like it's in some type of order. So the way to react to people, places, and things, when you have resentment of the past, you use acceptance. When you were dealing with anger of the present, you use love. When you're dealing with fear of the future, you use faith. So you see how spiritual principles is slowly coming in to wash away the negative principles. Yeah, so you got spiritual positive principles, then you got negative principles. So you see how they coming in? Now, once I start dealing with that, the stage is set for recovery. Once I start recovering, what automatically happens is my vibrations come up. Because I've used 3 indispensable set of principles that can start me on the road to recovery, to bring my vibration up, to bring my spirit up. That's the honesty, the open-mindedness, and the willingness. But however, these three principles will not work unless I have what? Unless I have faith. I have to have some faith that these principles is going to work like they've worked for others. If I don't have no faith, then I need to go and talk with somebody to try to see what type of exercises can I get that I could demonstrate and not put in no lip work, that I could demonstrate to get my vibrations up, to get my faith up, to get my spirit up. Because remember, people that have exercised the negative principles are on me. You know, they want to see my demise. So moving on, and I'm not going to hold you long, but we're almost there. So during the exercises of the resentment, the anger, and the fear, and I worked up and I used the process to come up with acceptance, love, and faith, which are three spiritual principles. My vibration automatically come up. So let's go to this person. So let's go to the person that I know, for example, is targeting me for a spiritual attack. Let me look at my relationship with this person. I mean, let's look at it for real, man. And say, well, you know, is this my friend? Is this my enemy? Or, you know, what type of relationship that we have that this person want to attack me? You know? And me, I would take the high road. I would talk to him, man, well, you know, why we got to be like this? I mean, what's going on with this, that, you know, we beefing. How about that? So let's try to get some resolve there. But let's say we can't get no resolve and this person is steady pushing. Now that I've looked at our relationship and see what it really is, you know, some people say, pray for that person. Well, go ahead and pray for them. But what I'm going to do, not only am I going to pray for that person, I'm going to pray for me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask whatever I believe in to help me in my own spiritual development. I'm not going to make it about that person. I am not going to spend my energy on somebody. But what I will ask for is to help me, help me for the, how about this one? How about this prayer? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. How about that one? Very simple. So I guess it took me all that time, about 1 hour, just to say, use that prayer right there. But I wanted to go through the process because now that I've done some work on my resentment, my anger, and my fears through acceptance, love, and faith, in that process, I ask God. Now, let's say I'm under spiritual attack and I don't know it's coming from somebody, but I'm feeling like something just ain't right. Something is just not right. When I go to bed, I'm having bad dreams. You know, I'm nervous. I'm having bad dreams. I'm nervous. I can't concentrate or focus. I seem a little depressed, you know. So I sit down and I meditate. And when I meditate, I ask God, you know, show me what can I do to, you know, ask God, number one, to show me what it is that I'm facing. Show me what it is. Show me, God, can you show me what it is? And then what, because the God, and when I say God, you know, for my agnostic friends, for my atheist friends, all I'm talking about is something or an energy that's over everything. So I submit to that energy and I say, help me. Can you help me? Can you show me what it is that I need to do? And then once I'm shown, I take steps towards that. Because I'm going to be shown. It's going to become very evident about what's going on in my life. Then I ask for the power to carry that out. So here's what it sounds like in 12 steps. It sounds like this. Step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. That's when I come from denial to admittance to acceptance into the recovery process. Something is going on with my life. Then I make another one. I go to step 2. We admitted, no, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So what happened was, in this particular step, I am looking at my resentment, my anger, and my fears. And I'm making the mission that these powers are greater than myself. What I need to restore me to the sanity is the acceptance, the love, and the faith. Do you see how I'm using the spiritual process to replace? I'm using the positive to replace the negative. First, I had to take a look at what? My resentments, my angers, and my fears, how they affected my life. Then, for my church friends, and my mosque-going friends, and my synagogue-going friends, and my other energy-going friends, I go straight to this here step. It says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So my agnostic friends and my atheist friends is as you understand God, not how I understand God, not how the church understands God, not how the mosque understands God, not how the synagogue understands God, but how you understand this power. And you make a decision, because the decision that I make when I turn my will over is my resentment, my angers, and my fears. Do you see how the step process is coming into play? That's what I'm doing. Now, what I've already done was taking the inventory and see how, and it's just a little spot inventory, just to see how number one, this assault is going, how I've been assaulted before. Or I inventory my resentment, my angers, and my fears. How about that? I just go look at resentment, anger, and fear in my life and how it's always affected me. But I also looked at acceptance, love, and faith, how that affected me too. And I come out on that end. And then in the 5th step, it says, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And when I admitted to God, to myself, and another human being, I start discussing the exact nature of my resentment, my angers, and my fears. And when I discuss the exact nature, it means how did they come into being? For 2 reasons. I want to know how my resentments, how my anger, and my fears came into when I first got afraid of something, and what was the reason and the cause of me being afraid? Also anger and also resentment. How did these come in? Then I look at my acceptance, my love, and my faith, and I inventory that. Where did that come from? How did that come into play? Now, my character defects, my shortcomings, and my character defects. And in step 6, it says, we weren't entirely ready to have we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And when it says we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, when it says these, here's the these. My resentment, my anger, and my fears, because when I inventory, I see how they affect me in a negative way. And I move on to step 7. We humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. We humbly. Now here's where the humility come in. First, we need to know the difference between a character defect and a shortcoming. A character defect is something that I just have that I don't do. A shortcoming is something that I do. So here's the deal. When I'm, let's say, up under the spiritual assault, coming from the person that's assaulted me, and I start going into my fantasy land, or I start going into denial, I ask God to help me apply what? Spiritual principles to my shortcomings. Now in step 8, what it says, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So let's say the person that's assaulted me spiritually has made it known to me. Remember earlier when I said I take the high road and then I go and try to talk with this person to see what's going on. Man, what is we beefing about? We need to, or man or woman, a dog, cat, or rat. Why are we beefing? What it is that we need to do. And so let's look at our relationship. What was our relationship based on? And once I look at that relationship, if we cannot mend that relationship, you know what? I've already made my change already. So I can't work a 9th step on them. I'm working on me. You know what the 9th step says? We made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Well, I am them. I am others. So I'm not going to let you harm me. I'm not going to let you harm me. So I go to the next step. I do that spot inventory for that day, like the 10th step say. We continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So I look at my relationship with that person, place, or thing. And then I look at the changes that I made, acceptance, love, and faith, and any more spiritual principles that God has revealed to me up to this point, apply them. But self-forgiveness. Now what happens at this point in the 10th step, my vibration is up. My spirit is up. I have cleared myself of a lot of resentment, anger, and fear, and those emotions and feelings that's connected with it. Now I'm fixing to go do the knockout punch. Ready for the knockout punch? I'm finna do that knockout punch. And here's the knockout punch. Knockout punch is we sought through, and when I say we, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So every time I said we from steps 1 through 11, I meant mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And what happens is when it says we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out, well, that's the knockout punch. Because now I know what you're up to. It's being revealed to me. But I've worked on me. I ain't worked on you. The only thing I tried to do with you is to try to resolve the issue. And since it didn't get resolved, you want to know what happened? I took it to the spiritual level, baby. I took it to the energies of all energies. And what the energy of all energies said, I said this. I said, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. So I asked for God, I said, God, let me do your will and not mine. Don't have me act on no resentment, anger, fear, or hatred. But what's your will? And he came back with some spiritual principles. And he gave me acceptance, faith, love, some mercy. Gave me some of all that. And guess what I did? I applied it to myself. So everything you try to do to me, you can't do. That's right. All those negative, all that negative energy that you're trying to apply to me, it's not gonna happen. Because this is what that person would, like I mentioned earlier, they'll try to come into from the third dimension to the fourth dimension, but I already put it out there. My dimension, you can come in, but guess what you're gonna get? You won't be getting me. I don't know what you're gonna get. But my vibration is gonna be so high. And you know what happens when you have a high vibration? You wanna know what happens when you, when you exhibit a high, when you put a high vibration out and you exhibit a high spirit, yeah, you can cause some damage. Things get out the way. Yeah. So this is only a way. A way. This is not the way. It's not the only way. This is a way. So let me say this, right? I'm gonna say this. It's what I firmly believe. Before I get up off of here, I've been on here 16 minutes too long. The highest power has to show that the highest power is the highest power. You can call it God. Let's call it God. It has to show it's the highest power. It don't has the highest energy. It created the energy. And if I use the third step and make a decision to turn my will over, get me out the way. Because 9 times out of 10, the person that's putting that spiritual assault on me has practiced at it. For sure. For sure. So wrapping this thing up, let me get a little bit of my tea. So wrapping this thing up, here it is. Spiritual principles over curses and spells. When spiritual principles are applied, curses and spells can be and will be removed. Now, let me say this to the person who may have doubts. Now, they have desire, because desire is a powerful principle. Once you apply desire to a spiritual principle, just like you could apply desire to a negative principle, once you apply desire to a spiritual principle, it makes it more potent. But here's the thing that'll put it over. If you got desire, you're going to do whatever it is you need to do to get that thing off of you. Let's say you're not able to do it. You try, but you're just not able, but you got desire. Activate that desire, and it'll show off, the desire will show up in this step right here, in this part of the 11th step. In this part, it'll show up. Praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And the power to carry that out, and that means whatever when God reveals what that desire is, when God reveals what that desire is, and you pray for the power to carry it out, all obstacles will be removed. That's what you need to believe. I go to sleep. And I'm going to say this, people still spiritually attack me. Oh, yes, they do. In my sleep, come on my fourth dimension. But you know what? Mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, I'm sound. I'm at optimum for my age and my experience in life. The program works. The program works. And I ain't talking about the way. I'm talking about a way. I'm talking about my own experiences, my own strengths, and my own hopes Nah, never again. You know, and I say this humbly. I don't have to be afraid no more. I don't have to be afraid no more because my experience in this program has shown me. My experience in this program has shown me that I ain't got to use no more symptoms anymore, and I can recover. My name is SUNI, SAMI, and you know, if you got something out of this, you know, it was the will of the highest power. You know, I pray I presented this thing right, and I like to say thank y'all. I got to get up in the morning. I need to shave too. All right, so thanks for letting me share with y'all. Let me know how you like this video. Please give me some comments. Hit the, what's the name of that button that people hit when they want to subscribe? Yeah, subscribe, man. You know, you don't have to be a recovering alcoholic or recovering addict to get on this. All you have to do is be able to, and how my man Mike Johnson say, identify. Because all those symptoms, that's all they were. It's symptoms. All right, thank you.